In a world overflowing with distractions, we seek meaning. How do we transform ambition into something deeper, into true fulfillment? I'm Sam Pepin, CEO of Kooloo AI, and I've spent years helping businesses succeed by connecting their goals to something bigger. On the Meaningful podcast, we explore not just how to win in business, but how to grow as individuals. Through conversation with thought leaders, innovators, and everyday heroes, we uncover the stories that drive us towards something greater. Whether you're striving for success, seeking purpose, or just looking for the next steps in your journey, this podcast is your guide to navigating the intersection of ambition, growth, and meaning. So please join me and our incredible guests as we redefine what's possible in both business and life. Enjoy. Follow the money and you'll see where the world is heading. Welcome to the Meaningful Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Pepin, and today we're diving into understanding personal finance empowerment, the transformative potential of AI in finance, and the role of decentralization in reshaping our economic landscape. Our guest today is James DeCicco, a seasoned entrepreneur and founder of Echelon Ventures, Inc., a multifaceted company that has spanned sectors from entertainment to tech. Now focused on Kooloo AI, James is pioneering a new approach to personal finance, offering a digital agent designed to align finances with individual desires and life goals, bringing ease and personalization to financial planning. If you enjoyed the discussion, please let the world know with a like, a small review, or even a quick share to support how more people find meaningful content just like this. Let's begin. Mr. James DeCicco, how are you doing?
I'm great. Happy to be here, Sam.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to have you. Welcome on the Meaningful Podcast. It's actually first time meeting each other, so I'm very, very excited to dive deeper into some of the most interesting things you've been working on. But to start us off, tell me more about Echelon Ventures, Inc.
Well, Echelon Ventures is a sort of a holding company that we put together back in 2009, and we've done everything from entertainment to live event production. And then as we moved back into the tech space in 2014, 2015, opened up Beach Coders Academy and did very well with the coding piece and education, sort of translating a lot of the educational seminars that we were doing in the entertainment industry to tech education and career-oriented stuff. And at the same time, doing some technical, what they call integrations. So commercial buildings and everything that are integrating IT and tech. And so we had both of them. We had the software and the hardware piece going together in that route. Now focused on a product called Kooloo AI, which is an AI finance agent. We found through the pandemic that there was a lot of excess hiring going on, and then we saw things sort of coming down in the tech industry, and it's sort of it's in this massive change, and we're in the crux of this big change. And so capturing this AI piece and something that's really going to help every individual across the board in growing their sustainability, growing their wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw the tagline for it, which I love, which is your personal financial genius for life. Go a little bit deeper into what does that mean, and perhaps how those unfold with Kooloo AI.
Sure. Yeah, you always have to come up with that, slick little tagline, right, as part of the pitch deck and everything. But it's really what it is. Very simply, is that when you think about if you think about what's out there on the web right now, or just information in general about finances, it's incredibly noisy. It's incredibly, this one's got this. Hey, you should invest in, single family real estate, or maybe you should get into storage, or maybe you should do this, or maybe you should buy a business, or maybe you should, and or here's how you do all these side hustles. Maybe you could do it. Here's how you sit back and do nothing and make $10,000 a month, and all these social influencers, and it gets really, really confusing and exhausting, actually. Now, I've been an entrepreneur since way before it was cool. I can go back to before I was even at a very young age, trying to figure out how to like find things and sell things and that sort of stuff. And I don't know. I always just wanted the freedom of being in my own business, despite the fact of how risky it is. And I think that's what frightens most people. It's like, well, what are you going to do next month when the rent is due and stuff? And I don't know, you get into a rhythm of it, and you start to trust yourself and trust the universe. And also, if you're in an environment where there's a lot of, you need to surround yourself with opportunity. Today's world is incredible surrounding of opportunity, being connected to the web and all of that. But back to the Kooloo AI piece is that, look, we need something that the financial journey, as unique as everybody is, the advice needs to be as unique as well. And if you think about it too, you could try and talk to an advisor. Now, look, the guy's got 100, maybe he's got 1,000 clients. He's not going to, they just can't, they don't have the bandwidth to give that personal advice every day. Every day. You might get, they might put together some stock portfolio or something for you, and then they call it rebalancing, which means they look at it 4 times a year or twice a year and say, well, maybe you should do this or do that. And there's a lot of time that's passed during that. And moreover, maybe you've got a friend, right, that you want to talk about and say, hey, I've got this thing, and maybe they're not doing as well, and they don't want to hear about, your trials and tribulations of how you're going to spend your hundreds of thousands of dollars, or what you should do this or that, and they're struggling to pay their rent or something. So there's going to be, and I've already experienced it as well, even with income tax preparers like CPAs, where as you start to you start with them, and then as you go through the years and you start to grow and expand, there's a little bit of this, I don't know, like a little bit of this negativity, and you're overlaying their thing, and I've so you want to avoid all that tension. Money's a very personal thing. As much as you want to talk about it openly, it's still a very personal thing, and it brings up a lot of emotional charge, right? And people, it's a very, very hot touch button. So imagine having this secure and personal AI that is yours. It's your account. It's your agent. And this thing is remembering, moreover than just crunching the numbers, it's remembering all of your, all the things that you've done. It remembers all the desires and all of this. The key differentiating piece with Kooloo AI is we're focusing on money as attached to desires and outcomes. And before we started this, I was just getting into it, so I'm going to get into the detail now, which is when we think about money, we think about, well, here's a certain amount, and then you just say, well, human brain, it needs simplicity, right? We just binary, like, is this dangerous or is this good for me? Is this, should I run or should I stay? And so with a bank account, it's like, well, I just need more, right? I need more. And we also talked about this weird effect that happens when maybe you've got a certain amount in your account and then you double it, or you get a big chunk that there's 10 times deposited in there. It kind of resets the bar, right? I know that's happened for me, that when it goes past the next round number, like if it's 10 to 20 or 30 or 40, then that's the new floor. And I want to keep going from that. I don't want to go under. If I go under even $1 and it's like $39.9, and you're like, oh my God. But these are just that you just catch these emotional pieces. But really, it comes down to money is about your life experience, right? It's about what the money really gives you, right? These people that are hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, I think Elon probably has a pretty clear vision of what all the money is for. But most of us don't really have, we have this idea, especially if you you save and you don't buy, like you're sort of frugal about things or whatever. And so then you get this money and you're like, well, what? Do I want to buy this? Am I going to burn it on this expensive furniture, or I'm going to buy an expensive car? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, and you really start to think about it. So if the money is tied to desires, and you can see how you can, how your income scenario is going to map out toward those desires, it really brings this tangible piece to everything in how you're thinking about money, and a daily certainty, which I think is really, really important. It's easy to fall into this trap of like, well, here's where I am right now, and everybody else out there seems to have so much more, and they got so much more going on, so I feel bad. I feel less than. And but with Kooloo, you can sort of map out your journey and say, well, I'm on track for where I am right now, and I'm on track. I'm on track for my desires where they are right now. And as I expand my desires and as I can play with the desires, I can turn them on, turn them off, and go, maybe I don't need that device, or maybe if I put the furniture off or whatever, and you can play around with it, and it's your choice as opposed to this outside influence of a parent or an advisor or whatever, or friends saying, oh, don't spend your money on that, you know?
Right, absolutely, and it's such a complex topic. But one thing that is absolutely sure, and you're absolutely right, James, is this understanding that our brain seek simplicity. When we have too many choices, it's just like having too few. Our brain is disabled to make a conscious decision towards what's the most meaningful outcome, and that is truly something that we've been struggling across all the human basically species. The money problem is definitely not a new problem; it's always been a problem. So when you call it an agent, I want to circle back on this because I think it's very important. When you mean by an agent, a personal agent, do you mean somebody that you can interact with, obviously that remember your conversation, that you can involve with? Is that the idea with Kooloo AI?
That's absolutely it. Just think about it as an app that would be, a mobile app. Uh, and once you onboard all of your financial pieces, and again, understand too, it's not doing the transactions for you. It's just saying here's the data, and um, and then it might say if you did this, this would be the scenario, or if you could do this, you could do this. So um, if where the app is at right now, there's all these different screens, and you've got the different sort of financial pieces, and then if you want to buy something, that's a desire, and so you input the desire, like I want to buy a car, and I'm going to need 5,000 down payment, and all this, and then you add that in, you say, and I want to do that in the next 3 months. And the priority in my life, it's like it's really important, like it's all the way high, or it's like medium. So you put that thing of like, how important am I feeling? What's my feeling on this? And then it maps out all these scenarios about pieces where, okay, if you put this much toward every month, here's how long it's going to take, blah, blah, blah. But where the AI really comes in is it says, well, you've got your skill set. You could do this. You could move money here, or you could take this other side hustle, or you could get maybe apply for this job and get a little better income. Um, Maybe also there's these stretch goals like, hey, you're somebody that likes fishing. It's like, how about taking a big fishing trip, and here's how much it would cost, and so that becomes like a stretch goal, as opposed to, I got to have 6 months of savings in my, I mean, it's important to have the emergency fund and all that too, but it's this nebulous thing, right? It's not, yeah. What if you had, I've got all the rudiments down, but I'm saving up for this, I'm putting away money for this trip or whatever. It pulls you toward, right? And when we talk about, we mentioned before the broadcast today about a little bit of my background with the training of Tony Robbins and NLP and all of this, that we need to set up things to where they're very easy to succeed and very hard to fail. So like if you want to start a workout routine, it's like, well, I'll do like one push-up. Let me just do one push-up. And then I could say, okay, I did the one push-up. And then from there, you start to build, because it's so hard to not do. I mean, maybe it's hard to do the one push-up, but if you can't do, what I'm saying? You just set up these things to get started in the habit to where it's very easy. And where things are a little more challenging, we need something not pushing us, but we need to pull ourselves toward it, right? Go towards the things that we want. And Kooloo is set up in that structure to give suggestions, and knowing it gets to know us. It gets to know our behaviors and our desires. And the most important thing about it is that because it's an AI agent, it doesn't ever have any judgment. It won't judge you for like, hey, you could move your money here and you didn't do it, or maybe you could invest in this thing and you didn't do it. It's like, well, think about it as like Google Maps, right? Google Maps says you're trying to go to this place, it's going to take 40 minutes, and it puts you on this road, and then it says, okay, make a left up here, and then you don't make the left. It just redraws the whole thing and says, okay, make a left to this next block, or do this. Yeah, it doesn't have judgment. Google Maps is like, hey, you missed it. What's the matter with you, right? It doesn't do that. It's always taking the present condition and recasting the whole map. And that's a beautiful thing. We don't see that in the finance world.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It reminds me of one of my favorite quote of all time by Russ Stinger, which is "Comparison is the thief of joy." And when you're thinking of, you mentioned this portion, which I think is so important, and we'll rebound about the we're bound later about just the benefit of AI because they're just so tremendous. But when you're thinking about social media and the fact that now the world is hyper connected, you can see people that are more successful than you by a couple of clicks on Instagram, or you can go on LinkedIn and somebody just closed a 7-figure deals. When you're thinking about that mental pressure and the stress that basically aroused from the very, I suppose, ever evolving world that we live in, do you think that's also a big component of why we have money scarcity and why it's so taboo to talk about money?
Well, there's a bunch of things in that comment there, and I'll try and unpack them here. First off, and I give a lot of thought about it. I mean, sometimes maybe too much thought to my own demise, right? But I get into a habit of, I think the first thing is to get into a habit of noticing your feelings. All right. The whole concept with NLP is to view your experience as a third party observer, right? It's like, oh, I'm doing this, right? Hey, I'm feeling a little upset, or I'm feeling a little, miffed right now. What is that? To notice it. And you can train yourself to do it in the same way that you would, train a muscle. And so the first thing is you say, why is this guy posting that he did all this stuff? I mean, in real life, right? If it's real life, do you just go into like a stranger's, like into a bar and announce, hey, I just closed a 7-figure deal, haha. Like, you don't do that. Most people in real life, the real ballers, are anonymous. Like, you don't know, right? How many people do you know that are like super wealthy and they just dress very casually and all, right? They're not flaunting it. I mean, there's safety reasons, but you got to ask yourself, like, what is he trying to do? He's trying to garner an emotion, and he's probably got a course or something like that to sell or something like that. Because what is the point of saying that? That's the first thing. Within that, I've seen this trend of like, people don't have the number. They say 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure. And it gets kind of tedious for me. 8-figure, I'm an 8-figure, I'm a 9-figure. It's like, okay, now I got to think about what is the 9-figure? What is it? It's a badge of honor. I'm a 9-figure. It's like a 5-star or something. And again, what does that really mean? What does it really, really mean for you in your life? 8 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. How's your health? How is your relationships? What is your life like? I see people posting out there and they're saying, I'm living a life by design, which sounds like parroting something, right? Life by design. We kind of all are living a life by design. It's we're doing our best. Usually, it's designed with the sticks and whatever that we're using, that we have to work with right now, right? Everybody is designing their life, and it's a matter of the resourcefulness and resources that they can bring with their resourcefulness to attract better elements to design their life. More sustainable elements.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think of your own life, James, and this is very interesting to me because you've been working with some of the greatest minds of basically modern business, Anthony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Deepak Chopra as well, which is one of my favorites. When did that curiosity towards neuro-linguistic programming came to emergence inside of your life? Were you always interested by it? Tell me more about that. How that unfolded.
Well, that's a great question, Sam. When I was younger, my dad he brought home these cassette tapes with psycho-cybernetics. You can look that up. It's this 70s thing, psycho-cybernetics. And I remember listening to it, and it was like this sort of I'm trying to think of the guy, the one Earl Nightingale, right? That was one of the yeah. If you listen, and you go back to there's a movie with Michael Keaton, The Founder, right, about the McDonald's story, and the guy is like getting dumped on and having hard times, but in his hotel room, he breaks out the LP and he's listening to the record of Earl Nightingale, which is pretty funny. I don't know, a lot of people caught that, but he was like one of the first sort of personal growth guys and the positive mindset stuff and that whole thing, self-help.
Yep. A mentor for them all, for sure.
Yeah. So I listened to the tapes, and yeah, I'm a young kid, I'm a teenager, and I listened to tapes, the cassette tapes they were. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Eventually, later, I needed some cassette tapes. I wanted to record some music, so I recorded over them. I had listened to them so many times, but I kind of was intrigued by it, and I got into some psychology books and things. And I don't know, I just found it interesting that there was some sort of a science behind all of this, to how to think or how people behave and understanding emotions. I don't know. I just had a tendency toward it. Fast forward a little bit. My first job was actually in a network marketing company with Cutco, Alcoa Aluminum, right? So Cutco was these incredibly high quality knives that have this like cast handle or whatever. But the deal was you had to dress in a nice suit and go door to door selling knives, door to door, knocking on the door. Hi, I'm here. Would you like me to come in? I mean, think about it today. Hi, you don't know me. Can I come into your house and I'm going to demo these knives for you? I'm going to demonstrate these sharp knives and everything. Like, it's absurd, but that's what we had to do. And the thing is, with any network marketing company, it's so difficult. Like, it's such a tough business that what they'll do is they'll include all this personal growth and development training. And that was like, yeah, and so you're getting this information, whether it's NLP, whether it's sales. I remember they sent me to a Dale Carnegie sales training back in the day. And these things are so powerful because you're really learning about not sales as a manipulative thing, but really to understand people's, reading people and understanding people's desires and understanding people's emotions and their states and whether you're communicating or not, how to build rapport that's authentic, simple things. What's great is on those lines, and maybe for everybody listening right now, one of the best things you can do for yourself, it doesn't, it matters a little bit. Obviously you don't want to be showed up completely covered in dirt, but it's less about how you look and how you're dressed. But if you can show up and that you give off the vibe that you're competent and that you're warm or friendly, like those two pieces, and you'll win in every sales or business presentation, whatever. If you're meeting people, can you deliver to them that you're competent and that you're warm and friendly and trustworthy? That's it. Those two pieces, and you're good to
Absolutely.
go.
No, absolutely. And that's so key. And one thing that is a big question right now, and there's, I think, very few people better than yourself to answer it. But with your background in NLP and obviously a lot of successful exits and your understanding of entrepreneurial basically and what it is, how much do you think NLP will play a role in ethical AI, in this understanding that AI needs to be used to better humans and basically in the vice versa? Tell me more about those relationships and perhaps how you see that unfold with maybe some of your projects.
Sure. Well, one of the things with NLP that I'm very keyed into is the power of words, the power of language, because there's emotionally charged words, right? And then there's specific descriptors. And not to get too techie, if I say I'm pissed off, right? Or I'm infuriated, or I'm putting out fires at the office today, right? That's even a stronger one because now you're painting a picture, you're painting a metaphor that you're putting out fires. What if all those problems that you're solving at work, you said, I'm solving little disturbances, and now you're framing it. One of the things was maybe in LA, the Hollywood thing was like, people would say, yeah, we're having a little get together. and they would really downplay, like, we're just gonna have a little to get together. Come on by the place. We're gonna have a little couple people over, right? And you get there, and it's like this massive bash, and everybody's dressed to the nines. Oh, it's just right. So that sort of thing. If you can, the thing again about setting yourself up to win and make it very easy to win, in your daily language, catch yourself. How many things do you say about your work, your relationships, your daily commute, whatever it is? How are you describing it? Do you describe it in a way that is supportive, or are you describing it in a way that's so emotionally charged that it's actually amplifying the negative part of it? Right? So, to answer your question directly about how that's going to work in NLP, I believe we already see that in the way that AI responds to people now. If you remember from Star Wars, it sounds a little C-3PO, right? It's very sort of formal, and it's polite, and it's respectful. Even if you're not respectful to it, it's very respectful. And so I believe that somewhere in the algorithm, it's already kind of gearing toward communicating to humans in a respectful and supportive way.
No doubt. Yeah. No, absolutely. And to me, the reason why this question is so important is it always take me back to one of my favorite quote by Joseph Goebbels, which is, "He who controls the language rules the world." And I think that in a language where obviously most basically developed countries will you not only use AI, but I think abuse AI will change absolutely everything about every single industries. That's always one thing to be aware of, because shaping the narrative is something that is quite detrimental, and we've been seeing this across obviously tyrannical and authoritarian civilization in the past. But I really wanted your insights on how we can make sure to, like I said, geared AI towards a place in which it empower the human species and obviously not try to suppress it. Could you be when you're thinking of what you're doing, and how much your NLP background perhaps incorporates into your urge of changing financial wellness, can you be a little bit more precise about just about ethical AI directly? Do you think, because it's such a big question, and I'd love to have a more distinct definition from on your side. What do you think that means, ethical AI? Do you think AI is already ethical? How can we make sure that it remains this way or perhaps improve? Tell me more about it.
Well, these are very important questions, and there's a lot of smart people who are thinking about this every day. Ethical, just the definition of ethics, the foundation of ethics is sort of the rule book of how people are going to live, right? It's sort of the code of, hey, this is how society works. This is what's right and wrong. That's what ethics is. This is what's right and wrong. And so when I think about, and here's my personal feeling on the finance piece, is that, and if we put politics aside, which certainly politics is a part of it, if we put some of those things aside, and we put certain societal constructs, whether it's communism, socialism, Marxism, all those isms off to the side as well, and we just say, what do we have here on this earth and in the universe and the space? And again, maybe getting back to Deepak and Rumi and all the great philosophers through the ages, that it is an abundant universe, and it really is. It is an abundant universe, and if you need an example of that, just go plant something and watch it just grow, right? From a little seed, and it's growing. And if it's a fruit tree or a tomato plant or something like that, and it's just continuing, I'm Italian, I like to plant basil. And I eat a lot of basil. I love it, right? And the basil just grows and grows and grows, and we have it. And then I'll put it in a jar, and it's just growing. This is abundance. That's just natural energy, abundance. The sun and the air and the earth. We live in an abundant, and we are a part of nature. All of us. As part of my keynotes, it's one of the foundational bedrocks of my keynote is that we're nature. We are a part of nature. Despite all this technology around us, we have to remember that we're a part of nature. And so we are subject to natural law, right? And so my tying back to how finances is something that was invented, right? It's not necessarily natural, right? It's invented. And because it was invented by a central authority, it can be controlled. And then we get into all these things about how some people have more and some people don't, and the rules and the way that schools we're not learned of this in schools. We're traditionally, we're schooled in how to, follow a clock and behave and do all these things. And basically, I've gotten into it in some of my books about how the educational system was set up to just make good employees, right? Good employees and all those things. If you empower people, and this kind of ties into the whole Bitcoin and crypto space, in that when you empower people to individually control their finances and they have full autonomous control over it, and they can transact privately, peer to peer, across any distance, that's power. And when you think about crime or any sort of injustice and all this, it really all comes back to money. It really does. Somebody's not stealing something because they just want that. It's something about, like, they want to acquire that item for themselves, or they want to get it so that they can sell it and get more money. But if everybody's sitting on a beach, like a really just lofty sandy beach, and you're not going to find people like trying to steal a handful of sand, right? There's sand everywhere. It doesn't matter. Or take a scoop of sand and try and sell it to the guy next to you. It's like, why? I've got plenty here. I don't need that. We could see society and crime and all that stuff and all the angst and woes and strife. I think we'd see all of that just disappear in a big way. I mean, there's still always going to be certain challenges and whatnot, but a big part of it would go away, and people would live, I think, a far more authentic life, to be able to, that this financial piece is not, we go back to that life by design thing. The finances aren't the finances aren't directing all of your activities. I have to do this, which is another NLP piece, right? A lot of people don't say I have to, say I get to, or I choose to, right? It's a little more empowering. I use the I choose to. So whether it's whatever the finances are in my life, it's like, well, I choose these things. And so therefore I've elected to take action to support these things. If I choose not to have, I don't have to have anything, but I choose these things. And so that's what Kooloo, I believe, is going to, people can now experience this financial journey in their own way, in a non-judgmental and a very, very powerful thing that's bringing so much knowledge. Because somebody who's like very just starting out, and they just need to like make a little bit of money, maybe move out of their house and get a rental, maybe get their first car, whatever it is, it's like it's helping them to that. But then after they are amassed into the next realm, it would be like, well, maybe you should open a trust, or maybe you should incorporate or do it. Like it has all the knowledge all the way from A to Z of financial knowledge and the tax codes and all that stuff. But you're not overloaded with that at the beginning. You are incrementally sort of exposed to it in the way that you would in real life, but all with that same person who remembers you all the way back to when you were just getting started. Really, really powerful thing that's never been done before.
Yeah, it is. It is very powerful, and it reminds me of this saying. I don't recall the author of it, but it's "follow the money, and you'll see where the world is heading." And when you look at just the massive investments and the powerful people going into AI, I mean that's the only thing you need to understand that AI is not going anywhere anytime soon, and perhaps will continue to be impactful for what seems to be at least a few years, if not decades. The world changes so fast these days. I won't take too big of a chance timeline wise. But one thing I want to talk to you about, which great mind think alike. I was exactly going the same route. One of my good friends is a gentleman called Charlie Stivers. He's a crypto expert, and he talked very often about decentralization. The finance is decentralized. Because, like you said, it used to be centralized institutions. Finance is decentralized. Education is decentralized. All these great things. How much do you think that the concept of decentralizations is important for a more meaningful life?
Well, the thing about decentralization at its core is that you're in control. If you want to talk about the crypto guys, will say, your wallet, your coins, right? And that's it. It's got to be your wallet, your coins. I'm not embarrassed to admit, I met with now I can't even remember his name, but the founder of Celsius came to an event here in Los Angeles. Yeah, Mashinsky, right? Alex Mashinsky. Great guy. And I'm like, oh, he invented VoIP, and this is stand up guy and all this. I don't blame him for what happened really with Celsius Network, because it was just the crypto winter, and they were lending, and they got exposed from that. It was kind of like a margin call event, but I didn't know until then. I thought, oh, I had my crypto with Celsius and it was great. I was earning the Cell coin and all this. But then when it collapsed, I was like, oh, not my coins, not my wallet. It was over there. We finally got through the settlement and everything, and got things resolved to a point. Of course, it was what they say: taking a haircut, take a discount in any of those bankruptcy court proceedings. But so you learn the lesson. But decentralization is really about that. That if you think about the dollar itself, it still says, you got to read on it. It says, for all debts, public and private, right? And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to take a paper dollar and give it to somebody privately and say, here, I'm selling this Hummel at my garage sale. And the guy gives you $1 and you give him the Hummel. Okay. And it's private. It's nobody's business but yours. I think it's important to keep that. It's important overall that we keep that. Crypto is basically the equivalent of that dollar transaction, but now I don't even have to be in proximity. I can send it anywhere over the planet or wherever instantly in the same way. Trustless, right? There's no third-party authority, so it's trustless. These are important things to have control. And in today's world, and we've already experienced this, it's not even like some sort of Orwellian fantasy. I mean, we've already seen people getting deplatformed or getting fired or whatever it is because they've said something. They've exercised their free speech. Compliantly exercised their free speech. They were just stating their opinion. They weren't inciting a riot or anything. And but they're getting financially penalized, having their bank. If you remember, there was one point with who was Yeezy, Kanye West. He said, "Man, they shut off my Apple Pay. If they could do it to me, they'll do it to anybody, right?" Because he's just a very public person, and he was kind of shooting off his opinions, but you have to have that responsibility, and it's just kind of weird, right? I mean, it's one thing if you lose a sponsor, that a corporation says, we don't align with we don't want your message aligned with our brand, so we're not going to sponsor your thing anymore. Okay, that's fine. But if a bank says you can't bank with us anymore, and we're going to just shut your account down, that's some dangerous stuff because it affects a person's survival.
Yes, absolutely. And it remind me when you're thinking about crypto and this world of interconnectiveness to the web, and especially the finance piece. My favorite speaker on crypto and by far on Bitcoin is Michael Saylor, which I'm sure you're familiar with. In my opinion, just a super eloquent and truly an incredible speaker. But he talked about crypto and Bitcoin, most importantly, excuse me, not crypto, but Bitcoin as gold but digitalized, that moves as at the speed of light, and is very, very big on Bitcoin, and I think probably one of the greatest, again, speaker and advocates of just the value of decentralized finance. For you, with everything that you're doing, and now obviously Bitcoin is rising, Donald Trump is back in the office, and whatever your political opinion is, a lot of people are quite excited about his proximity to crypto and what does that mean. How do you see all these things unfold? I mean, crypto now, obviously through Ethereum's, there's it used to be thousands of coins. Now we see a couple of coins that are truly distinguishing themselves as true players and people of, and not people, excuse me, but things and assets, sheer assets. What's your positioning on where crypto is going, and perhaps how that's tied into to modern finance and autonomous finance?
Sure. Well, again, these are great questions. They're so rich, so many facets to them to talk about. It's not just like a yes or no. When it comes to crypto, and you're right, we saw so many coins, and really it's kind of evolved from this diversity of coins. And people still, I know people that trade crypto, and they've got, you open up their screen and they've got dozens and dozens of different coins there, and they're trading all day, and that's just kind of what they do. But right now, there's still not, I mean, at least in the United States, there's still not like a general. If you say like, well, I can't go pay my rent with Bitcoin, or I can't go buy stuff with Bitcoin, but do you really want to? Do you really want to, when it's going to spike and then go down and then spike again and then go down and then spike again? It's one of those things where it seems to be, specifically with Bitcoin, it's a store of value. We're going to see it go up and down, but every time it comes back, and if you look at the graphs over the 4 years or whatever, it comes back stronger, it comes back stronger. And because of the scarcity by design, it's only going to always come back stronger. And I think we're past, I mean, anything's possible, but I think we're past the whole thing of like that it's a novelty, obviously, because these large institutions have adopted it. BlackRock, whatever, have created exchange ETF, exchange trading fund. And so as soon as that happens, you're not going to, it's one thing to have it trading, that it's on the S&P or something. It's another thing to have an ETF. We're not going to see the ETF just evaporate all of a sudden. I think at some point, it's one of those things where we're all told, well, we weren't all told at the beginning, but the idea right now is the fiat currency, unfortunately, has accelerated in its depreciation, right? I mean, it always has been depreciated. So people would say, well, you got to invest so you could offset inflation. And really in the back of people's minds, like inflation, like, okay, 2% a year or whatever. But from the pandemic to now, and just seeing the acceleration, almost like the compounding effect of inflation or depreciation of the dollar, it's become very acute. This is why we're seeing, why is rent so much? Why is food so much? And it's very hopeful that this new administration is going to rein in costs, but pragmatically or mechanically, we're really not going to see things go. Certain things will go back down or whatever, but we're at kind of a new level here, and we have to sort of operate in that new level. And the Bitcoin piece is kind of like, it's more of a store and a long-term value type of thing, because if you're not, you don't want to be the guy that bought the pizza for 2 Bitcoin or something back in the day, right? I mean, maybe not so much a pizza, but I don't know. Maybe if it's something like there was a guy early on too that traded in his Bitcoin for a house, paid for the house in cash. It's like, well, now he's got a house. It's a high utility, a house, right? You live in it. You could rent it. It's not a pizza that you just eat and it's gone. It's a high utility. So maybe that was a good. I don't know if that was a good. You might say mathematically that was not a good move. That maybe he should have borrowed against the crypto. and got the house. But maybe I don't think those platforms were available at the time. I think we'll see more of that happening, that you've got this store of value, and then there's, you know, there's opportunities, maybe even through insurance, where you could actually borrow, like get a policy and put your Bitcoin up and be able to borrow through an insurance policy, as opposed to working through the banks or something. And where there would be, an opportunity to shut you down or something, but you're always borrowing against it. In the same way that Bezos or any of these high rolling people, they're never selling. That was a big, and just as an aside here, that was a very, very big sticking point for me about the Democrats' position, if that was even real, that they were saying, well, why don't we tax unrealized gains? And it's like, you can't charge income tax on something that's not there yet. It would just disrupt everything. It would disrupt everything. You'd be taxed higher on everything that's unrealized, real estate. And they're like, oh, no, it's only for 100 million and above. But it always starts with that and then trickles down. And it's against the entire, really, it flies in the face of the entire economic model. So I'm glad that's not even on the table anymore. The good news about, if people are feeling a little scared with today's with the outcome of the election, just think about it this way: that don't look at so much as this guy and you hate this guy or something. Really focus on the policy. The policy here is crypto friendly, that we're going to resolve all these things, that maybe they'll get rid of this guy at the SEC. They're going to resolve these things and make it a lot more workable for people. We're also seeing some forward motion here with health and wellness, and get better food. I mean, try as you may. I go to the store and I try and buy organic stuff, and it still has all the seed oils in it and everything. So it's becoming harder and harder to find really healthy things. So if you look across the board, and Elon Musk and what he's going to do, I mean, let's face it, nobody wants to pay more and more out of your income to pay for something that's wasteful, right? You want something efficient. And so if you think about efficiency in the government with lower costs to us, maybe we could get a rebate on our taxes, right? Wouldn't that be cool? That we don't have to think so hard about the food that's in our system, that they're looking at getting rid of the fluoride and all this and all these toxins. Less toxins is a clearer brain, clearer mind, clearer people, better health, more health, less healthcare, lower healthcare costs. So you see, and whether it's crypto-friendly things and other sort of things in the policy that are really supposed to help the people be more abundant and be more sustainable and be more healthy. I think these are great things. These are really, really great things.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that is super interesting. So perhaps your position is crypto our friend of autonomous finance, right? It's something that we still have our doubts, but you're very hopeful towards it. It seems like, correct?
I'm very bullish on it. Absolutely. And I've already been through the whole crypto scams and all that, and the Mt. Gox and all. I mean, I've been through all that whole piece, and yeah, but I think foundationally, even through all that mess, Bitcoin never got destroyed. It never got wiped out. We only saw these crazy coins that were these altcoins and that types of things that would pump and dump and all of this. And but yeah, I think crypto is going to. It's exciting to see what I'm very, very hopeful to see what, besides the fact that it's been performing so well. I'm hopeful to see what the next level of adoption and stability and all that will be. I think that's going to be a really, really great thing. And maybe that'll be the mechanics of it, is that we have our store. Everybody has their store of value, and they're able to borrow sort of at like a margin rate to pull out cash, to pull out fiat to pay for things in their daily lives, but they're still keeping that ever growing asset underneath. And I don't know if I use the word asset or not. These are legal terms, but it is a piece of value that is guaranteed to go up. So I would definitely label that as an asset.
Yeah, me as well. I use asset quite freely. Let me ask you this: you slightly touched on a point that I want to circle back on, because I think what a lot of people are worried. Even the people that are bullish are starting to ask questions. When you're thinking about, you mentioned BlackRock, and obviously our good friend Mr. Larry Fink. Uh, whatever your position is on him, perhaps not a big fan personally, but when you're thinking about these humongous entity, right, with trillions of dollars under basically asset management, and there what seems to be an intention. I want you to educate me, because you're definitely way more knowledgeable than I am on this specific basically lane. When you're thinking about all these centralized guy, right? What we call I don't know if you call it the deep states, or let's not be complotists here, but people with a lot of power, and definitely a lot of power, is trying to get basically intertwined with crypto, and trying to basically centralize it so that it becomes institutional again. Do you think do you think those type of people are perhaps allies, or enemies of our missions of autonomous finance?
Yeah. Well, let's unpack a couple of pieces there. First of all, when we think about things like BlackRock, that's you'll see a lot of stuff out in the internet like BlackRock owns all of this and da da da. Da. BlackRock is a fund, right? And yeah, and all of these funds. I mean, they don't really own all this stuff. It's they are managing the money from all the people who have put it into that fund. So they don't really own it all. They are managing. They are. That's why we say AUM, assets under management, right? And it becomes very strong as saying I'm an asset manager. Even somebody like Ray Dalio, right, in the Bridgewater Fund, it's like, these are assets under management, and these people are custodians. They have a high responsibility to manage all of this billions of dollars, maybe $1 trillion of all these people's money. So that's the first thing, is that while they may be attracting a lot of money, that Larry doesn't own all this stuff, and Larry and his crew doesn't own all this stuff. They're responsible for it, more like custodians. So that's the first thing you want to think about.
It's an important distinction. Yeah, I appreciate you making this
Yeah.
distinction.
Can they sway policy? Yeah, they're going to have influence because, again, as custodians and representatives, they're going to say, hey, my constituents feel this way. But foundationally, they can control the Bitcoin ETF, a product that they made, but they can't control the Bitcoin. Nobody can control the Bitcoin. And so if you want to own your coin, your wallet is still, no matter what they do, it's not going to change that piece. So that's the first thing. I think the idea of the credit score and all these sort of, very, very scary and dystopian things about being able to basically, what happened to Kanye is now, happening to anybody if you don't fall in line. If there's one thing I would say about and again, not to get too political, but just it's topical because it just happened. We look at the map of the United States, I think, and everybody in the news and all is talking about this one thing, that people just want a better life. They want their autonomy, and they want to be able to pay for things, and they want a better life. And that's what they were voting for. In essence, that's what they were voting for. And so I don't believe that these central digital, the CBDC, digital currency and control thing, I don't see those coming forth at this point. There may be a digital. Now, here's the thing. The real reason for any type of a central bank digital currency at its core is the platform in banking. I don't want to get too technical, get too far of the thing, but everybody on their check, you look at the routing and the account number. Every time you sign up online, it's like, okay, give us your bank routing number and your account number, right? Well, that routing is the ABA routing number, American Bankers Association routing number. And that uses it's a platform of through the Fed bank. It's a platform internationally to move money, the Fed wire. This is the methodology we have to move money. And it's cumbersome and it takes time and it's checks and balances and that. So if the bank had its own, if the central banks had their own digital platform that they could move money securely in large tranches, billions of dollars every day securely, that would be helpful. It would speed up things. It would reduce the wait time. You don't have to wait 3 days for it to resolve. It would happen right now, and nobody has to double check it because it's all secure already by design, and all the parties. So that functionality to facilitate banking in general is great. The onset of saying, well, you could program all this stuff and blah 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 blah. There's almost no reason for that to even be a part of it, right? Now you have to get granular into every person and follow all of their social. It's insane. It's insane. Just so people get a little sense of the breadth of what the scope of that is, or the scale. One of the largest computers in the world is the California DMV. So just to manage people, that little piece of data with your picture and your name and your birthday and da da da, that's this it's Cray computers, like the most insane computers ever. So now you want to have one entity, central bank, monitoring every human on the planet and what they say. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, it's not possible on a computer obviously level, electricity level. Which talking about California, they already have a bunch of problems in that regards. And before circling back to that electricity piece, because I think it will be so important AI wise, I just want to give you a very quick example of just how I suppose this cumbersome, I think is the word you use. I think that's the perfect word. That the current traditional banking institutions are. I have a good friend. He lives in LA. He banks mostly, his personal banking is with Bank of America. And I kid you not, he goes to basically ATM. He has tens of thousands of dollars in his bank account. He tried to withdraw $1,000. Enter in. We do not have that amount of money right now. Please enter a lower number. The biggest number he could at a Bank of America ATM at that specific moment, it was the summer, don't know the date, was $250. $250. It's that's a perfect example of just how not only ineffective, but just how of a crying need that perhaps fiat currency and that liquidity of the fiat currency is currently for the average folks, right? Which is what we're talking about here. One thing that I want to circle back on, though, which is I think that will be an essential point of our discussion with AI moving forward, is just how energy basically just how much it consumes energy altogether. We already have these problems in California, where you see, for example, Mr. Newsom saying, hey, don't charge your Tesla in the summers because some people were not able to just have air conditioning in their homes. Where are we going with this, and what do you think is perhaps I don't know if you have an idea, but if you have any perhaps can you perhaps give us an understanding of maybe some ways we can solve this or optimize this? Where are we going with that?
Sure. Well, that speaks back to as well the early crypto days, where they would set up the mining farms in like these, Siberia and whatnot, these cold places where they didn't have to deal with the heating and all that. But there's a lot of power requirements. So look, the power requirement thing is a real issue. It was already introduced in crypto, and now we're seeing with AI that it's even more computing power. What I'm hopeful for personally is, again, just to get in at this point. We're still early adopter, even though it may not feel like it, we're still early adopters to get the foundations in. I believe that there's advancements happening with the quantum computers, which again, it's just a different modality of how the computer essentially works. It takes far less power and does so much more. Quantum computers, very interesting. Right now, it's basically an electrical charge for a 1 or no charge for a 0, and all the ones and zeros are switches on and off, different combinations. The quantum computer is, again, getting into the quantum physics thing, back to maybe Deepak and others, that it's on and off at the same time. It's just a matter of it's a matter of how you look at it, or if you're looking at it, or and it's kind of confusing and counterintuitive, or Schrodinger's cat, right? If you look at it, is the cat dead? You don't know unless you look at it. But the quantum computer be able to do so much more power and computing power without that kind of power drain. As far as the grid and all these other things and charging, yeah, that's a whole nother piece. And I agree that I'm not going to get into too much of solutions and things like that. I mean, there are solar farms and all of this. They're definitely better than the wind farms. We may see, and even people are talking about whether we have this advancement in the quantum computers to lower the drain there, but also the nuclear and perhaps nuclear fusion, which is incredibly safe and compact. If we see those two things come to bear, we'll have unlimited amounts of energy available to everybody. You'll have the hovercraft. You'll have all these things, right? You have the Back to the Future's hovercraft, right? Mr. Fusion. We'll have a lot of things like that.
Interesting. So you're also very bullish on how we acquire that electricity, and you think that mid to long term that won't be one of our biggest problem, correct?
I think we'll solve it. Yeah, I do think we'll solve it. Even, look, even if people don't realize so much of our power is generated with diesel generators and all this, and back to the old school electro turbines, which is fine. We'll figure it out. The biggest thing, and again, just because I happen to know something about the mechanical piece and of electrical and all this, that they say the grid isn't able to handle it. It's the amount of current and the demand and the draw, the transformers and all that stuff. So these physical pieces, I think we're going to see some changes in that. Like right now, I saw an article that there's all these simple transformers that if they just had the backup for it, when the transformer blows or if something happens, lightning hits it or whatever, there's a surge. We don't have the backup transformers just ready to go. Like the crew can replace it, but there's no part, and all we need to have is that extra part available. We just haven't commissioned those to be made. Things like that will really help keep the power flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to very quickly tie us back into to personal finance. We've been truly having this incredibly insightful conversation about fiat and crypto and decentralizations and perhaps autonomous finance as well, which is one of my favorite topic personally. When you're thinking about Kooloo AI, excuse me, I think that your objective is to empower as many people as possible, right? You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to be a billionaire. Everybody will be able to benefit from having somewhat of an agent to track their desire, as you call them, which is very, very key words there. Because one thing that we talk very often about is people don't really want money. They want what money can buy, which is very, very different positioning wise. Tell us more about, or maybe even reiterate a little bit about Kooloo AI. How is it going? When can it be accessible for everybody? And just try to perhaps inspire us.
Sure. Well, again, just to answer that question about what money can buy, it's the thought of what money could buy, right? I mean, it really comes back to state of mind. Like, I feel good. I feel safe. I feel I'm doing the right things. I'm right. I'm correct. Right. Those are the things that's what a bank balance does for you. And it's so nebulous. It's so arbitrary and random. Somebody might say, "Oh, I finally have $500. I finally have $1,000. I finally have." I remember Vishen Lakhiani was telling a story about him starting Mind Valley, and saying that he was down to his last $7,000. That was his story of dire straits. Like, I was down to my last 7,000. So the numbers are very arbitrary. What it really comes back to is that feeling. One of the things I did at the keynote, and I'll get back to the Kooloo piece, but the keynote, I said, this money thing about the emotion, that it's mostly rooted in your emotions. That I ask everybody in the audience just to imagine right now that you just got a text on your phone or somebody whispered in your ear, whatever amount that you've been desiring, whatever it is that's going to make you feel like you're free, whatever that amount is, it's in your bank account right now. You just got notification. It's in. I want you to give yourself this moment. And everybody, you see the whole audience just like, and they're so relaxed and everything, because all they did was think about it, right? Nothing really changed physically in their world. They're still sitting there in that moment. But because they thought this, it changed everything. And I ask them to originate, like, well, what does it mean? You say, usually it's, I can finally do this. I can finally have that. I can finally feel this, right? And you're giving yourself emotionally this permission to feel good, to feel hopeful, to feel safe, to feel joyful, whatever it is. And that's a very, very powerful moment that you can, again, back to the NLP piece, is that despite the conditions, can you gear your language and gear your mental state and the things you're telling yourself, repeating to yourself and others, key piece, the stories you're telling yourself and telling others. How can you reframe that to support yourself? And again, this isn't Pollyanna-ish, like everything's great and everything's good. It's just a way to say, this is what it is, and how, not why is this always happening to me, but how can I feel great about this? What is it? So that's the thing about the game that's happening in Kooloo AI with the emotional piece. Okay. That's why it's so important. That's so important. We have our beta online, and I know there's a couple other pieces in that question that you asked, but the beta is in it's kind of floating right now. We're hoping and working very vigilantly towards actually releasing this at the beginning of January, for 2025, releasing it at the same time as the new year and getting that beta. One of the things we're going to do is a little bit of a challenge where we say, hey, use Kooloo AI and be the first person to get $100,000 in net worth, or get your first $1 million using Kooloo AI. Maybe we'll double it or something, that kind of a thing. Make it a purse, make it a thing like the X Prize, right? I think that's just going to get more adoption. The beauty of the way that the app works is that it's never going to put you at risk. It's kind of following like the Isaac Asimov's robot rules. It's never going to have you do hyperbolic, risky things like, okay, shove everything into the stock and hope it goes up. And, it's always going to find great mechanical things. But I think it's the little sticks piece, right? Like little moves every day that are moving you closer, and then they start to compound toward. And it becomes fun, and it becomes a habit, and it becomes empowering. And when you're empowered, you start to feel better, and you start to express a little more, and you start to reach a little more, and you start to show up a little brighter, a little better in the world, and feel comfortable asking for more or taking on more responsibility. These are the things of what happiness is rooted in. It's the growth, the feeling of progress, more than the acquisition, right?
Incredible. Well, Mr. James DeCicco, I so appreciate your time. It was an absolutely incredible conversations. Would you like any last words for our audience, please?
Well, I would just say that think about those words you're telling yourself every day, and how you can switch those words up so that they make you feel better, even if work is insane, right? Whatever it is, that you can switch up those words so you're not triggering yourself emotionally. Go to Kooloo AI. It's KOOLOO AI.com. We have a mailing list that, sort of like a early release mailing list. You can get on the mailing list at KoolooAI.com. There's really not much there except to join the wait list. We're happy to have you there, and we want to get our first beta testers out there and, getting those success stories.
Thank you for spending your time with us today on the Meaningful Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who could benefit from it. And always remember, your story matters. Make it meaningful. We hope to see you next time.